All right, so caulking. It can be one of the most stressful parts of a bathroom renovation, especially if you don't get the right caulking gun. Now, I have a whole bunch of caulking guns here from Born Caulking Guns. I definitely appreciate them sending them out. And there's a whole bunch of things about this that I never paid attention to. I would always just grab whatever was on the shelf at your box store and always cause problems. I'd always have an issue with it dripping all over the place or it hurting my arm by the time I was done. So thrust ratio is a very important aspect to the types of sealants that you use. So most bathrooms, I'm just using adhesives. I'm using polyurethane sealants for waterproofing. I'm using acrylic caulks for painting, and I'm using silicones for my finish work. Now, each one of these have a different thickness of product, and depending on how warm or cold you leave these things in, is how hard it's going to be able to get out of the tube. So thrust ratio is nothing more than basically the amount of pressure it takes to press out the fluid. So a 12:1 ratio would be great for fluid materials like silicone and latex. So 12:1 meaning 1 pound of pressure would equal 12 pounds coming out of the gun. So as you can see here on a 12:1, you're actually going to get a much more speed. So just like when you basically have a harder setting on your bike, you're able to move a lot quicker with it. But it's also, I mean, if you're on a flat, straight surface, it's very easy to pedal. You don't want to be doing more pedaling than you have to. So the 12:1 is great for these small items. Now, when you get into higher thrust ratios for something like polyurethane sealants or liquid, liquid nail, you would want to use a higher thrust ratio. So something like a 24:1 would be much more easier. So just like when you're pedaling a bike, when you downshift, it's easier to pedal. You just have to pedal twice as much to cover the distance. So you're able to reduce the amount of friction on your hand, but also get that fluid out of the product really easily. So that makes a big difference when it comes to using polyurethane sealants. So if you're having arm cramps, definitely get the right thrust ratio for it. Now, the third one that I would say is primarily for me is for finish work. So when you're doing your silicones, when you're doing your acrylic caulks, you want to have the least amount of problems as possible. So a dripless gun is going to be the most helpful. And this essentially just takes off the pressure. So you can even see when I'm pressing the lever, I'm able to press back on it. So that basically, once I'm done with my caulking, it releases it and it's not putting any pressure on the tube. And that's going to eliminate, and that's going to what makes it dripless and keeps that fluid from coming out of your caulking tube. There's nothing worse than having your finished tile work and having a whole bunch of caulking that's kind of overspilling because you got the wrong caulking gun. So check out Born Caulking Guns. They actually have a great chart that gives you indications on what the thrust ratio would be for all the types of different sealants and applications that you plan to use.